Here's the thing nobody says about the creator space. You don't need an audience to build a scalable product. The audience comes after the asset, not before it. I know. That contradicts most of what you've heard. So let me show you exactly why the sequence matters and what happens when you get it wrong and what the actual order looks like. If you've been putting off building something because you don't have followers yet or an audience, this video is for you. Which is why in this video, we're going to talk about why the audience comes after the asset or the artifact, the sequencing error that keeps most creators stuck. Now, real quick, if you're building for real leverage instead of grinding harder, subscribe. This channel breaks down digital leverage and creative autonomy practically. So before we continue, let me preface this to say, you know the feeling, right? You watch someone else ship something, a course, a toolkit, a small product, and people buy it. And your first thought isn't good for them. It's I can do that. Why haven't I done that? Right? Rightfully so, because I mean it's very simple, in theory at least. Then the doubt shows up. I don't have their audience, right? That's the excuse that most people use. The algorithm won't show my stuff. You need followers before anyone listens to you. So you wait, you consume, you watch others build while you figure out how to build first, right? And here's what's actually happening. That's not a readiness problem. That's a sequencing error. You've been taught to solve distribution before you've built the thing worth distributing. And that's structural. It's not your fault per se. It's not personal. The advice you got was designed for someone in a completely different situation than you. Okay, so here's why grow an audience first is the wrong first move. Let me be direct about this. Build an audience first is reasonable advice, right? It's reasonable, but for a specific kind of person. Someone with a stable income, low financial pressure, and enough breathing room to publish for 18 months before they can see a return. For most of you watching this video, you don't fit that criteria. That person exists, but they are not most people. For most people, the internet represents something specific, a path to asymmetric independent income. Income you can earn without trading more hours for it. The problem is that the standard creator playbook, pick a niche, grow a following, figure out what to sell later, was built around views, not reach. That's the wrong sequence. As you can see, here's the wrong sequence. Most people are building in the wrong order. The common advice is pick a niche, grow an audience, figure out what to sell. This is where most people are. The actual order, however, is identify a constraint, a lived problem or pain, or a need or gap that you are qualified to fill or provide for somebody else. Document the solution, right? Even just, you don't have to have had the solution already. Even just identifying that there is a problem and starting to document that problem. It's something. And then build the product through um, iteration, right? And then distribution follows naturally. This is the proper sequencing. Attention doesn't automatically become income. That's what most people should understand. That's the structural flow. When you optimize for followers first, your content is almost always entertainment adjacent. It gets views, it might even go viral, but entertainment takes years to monetize, if at all. And that's the broken loop, man. Like that's a broken loop. Why it fails? Because attention doesn't pay you. The loop is structurally broken before it reaches income. Niche, content, followers, revenue. Attention first will always optimize for reach, not revenue. You can't compound leverage around nothing. So instead of seeing the internet as just being a content creator, grinding and hustling for the algorithm until you have a big enough arbitrary audience or follower number, which there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I know a follower number and an audience has its place. It's social proof, but for most people going through this approach, it's not going to save them the outcome that they believe they are pursuing, right? Entertainment is very difficult to monetize, so I would rather most of you watching this start viewing the internet as global free distribution, where you can solve your problems. You can provide solutions to problems, or fill in the gaps where there are needs that you've identified at scale, so that you are able to create independent scalable income for yourself. That's what I would push you into doing, because attention doesn't pay you. So you cannot build compounding leverage around nothing. The artifact has to exist first. The audience organizes around it. What most people call growing an audience before that is actually just noise accumulation. So, real quick before we move on, if this structural loop is where you're stuck right now, the waiting, the watching, the building nothing, I put together a short framework called the 7 day wealth reset. It helps you to think how you're spending your time and start building the first layer of leverage. The link is in the description. Let's proceed. So, how a solved problem became a product before anyone was watching. So, let me make this concrete, right? I preach what I teach. Oh, yeah. I mean, I practice what I preach, rather. Sorry. So I built something called the 48-hour game scoper. I took it for intermediate game developers, people who can build but keep abandoning projects they ship. I didn't build it for an audience. I built it because I was living the problem. Scope creep, project abandonment, the same cycle over and over. How? Because I'm in that community. I'm an aspiring independent game developer trying to grow myself in that career path, right? And so I found an issue, constraint, a pain that was costing me my vision, my goal in that chosen path, and I chose to solve it, right? So I solved it, documented the solution, turned it into a product, launched it on Gumroad before I had a single follower looking for it. Yeah, and that's the proof of sequence. The 48-hour game scoper before the audience. So it's built from lived constraint. I identified scope creep and project abandonment, a real problem already solved. I documented it, solution written out step by step. I thought to myself, if I keep on opening Unity 3D, which is a game engine where independent game developers and professional game developers organize things and do all the programming. Ultimately, a game engine is what exports a finished game, either for Android, mobile, PlayStation, etc., etc. So I was thinking to myself, every time I open a game engine such as Unity, I have this broad, big, wonderful, story driven idea. But every time I start trying to tinker with it, create the terrain, the big, impressive world, I would get overwhelmed, with scope. It just got too big, it would surpass my skills, and it was just overwhelming, right? And I'd quit. And I thought it's because I didn't have enough skill. And then I would go through a cycle of tutorial hell, etc., etc. And then over time I just abandoned that project, and it just kept on this negative feedback cycle, and it was just diminishing my confidence all around. I wasn't building anything. I wasn't even publishing small, just little project or games. I couldn't complete a game yeah, what do they call those game, I've forgotten what they call those little contests for game developers. I couldn't even finish those, right? And so I thought this was a problem. Game development is something that I'm very passionate about, and there's a big community for it. I'm sure there are lots who have put away this career path, this creative, fun endeavor, because they keep going through these same problems. I didn't go searching for a niche. I didn't go searching for an audience first. I just started creating this so that it would help others, and in turn, it would also help myself fund my game development journey. And so the product was launched on Gumroad before a single follower was looking for it, and that created the entry point. Content now has a target audience, an audience organizes around the asset. So I launched before I had an audience for it. What I had was a solved problem in the documented sequence. That was enough to start. And this is the mind frame that I want you to have. So yeah, and here's what happened after. Now I have something to talk about, right? I have a reason to make content because there's a specific person it's for, and a specific thing it leads to. The content didn't create the product created the entry point for the content. That's not a shortcut, that's the actual order. So here are the 4 questions that surface the problem that you might already have within you. So here's the thing about the product you're supposed to build. You have already solved it, or you understand it to some extent. You just haven't packaged it yet. 4 questions, answer them for a problem you've lived through, not a problem you imagine other people have. So, 4 questions, right? Number one, what kept you up at night 6 months ago? Specific and recurring, not a vague category. Number two, what problem ate at your time, energy, or joy? The one that actually cost you something. Number three, what would have saved you 6 months of struggle if someone handed you a resource? What was in it? And number four, what solution felt like a superpower once you found it? That's the product. It's very simple. So yeah, that's really it. These are the 4 questions. So you take the last answer and write it out step by step. When you have 400 to 600 word document that solves one specific problem from lived experience, that's a product skeleton. Everything else is packaging. I'll leave two that can help you do this over the weekend or whenever you're watching this, just so that you don't have to start from scratch. You can One action, one sitting, right? Open a blank document, write down one problem you have navigated, name the constraint, something specific, not general or just a minor inconvenience. Write the solution in steps, stop when it's narrow enough that a person stuck in that exact situation would recognize it as theirs. Not a niche, not a business plan, one constraint solved, documented. And that document is the first version of your product. And this is exactly what you can do this week. Open a document, name one specific constraint you have navigated, write the solution in steps, stop when it's narrow enough that a person in that exact situation would recognize it as theirs. You know it's done in 400 to 600 words. One constraint, one solution. So here's where we are now. You know the actual sequence: constraint, documentation, product, and then distribution. You know why skipping the first two makes the last one useless, and you have one specific action to take this week. That starts it. The next question is, once you have that document, how do you turn it into something that ends? What's the structure, the pricing, the packaging? And that's what the next video covers. So subscribe if you want that. And if you're ready to build the full system, the structured path from your first product to your first scalable income, the link to leverage launch plan is in the description. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.